Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of Wednesday's vlogs. My name is Taylor Bluemel and today we're going to be taking a look at my first roll of developed film. So before we jump in and start looking at some of these photos, I just want to talk about some things. So the film I shot on was some economy 400 ISO film stock, so it's nothing special by any means. And the camera I shot on was my old Pentax K1000. It needs a partial overhaul, so I had to expose the stop above, but it seems that everything was exposed properly, so that wasn't too much of an issue. And then the lens I was using was a 70-200 3.9 to like 22 lens. And where the focus grip was on the barrel is pulled off, so there's some parts, like if you align the stars just right, that light can bleed through and hit the sensor. And it seems that I actually managed to do that in some of my shots, so I'll show some of those. And finally, I didn't get to go in the darkroom and do the developing process. I sent the roll of film into a local camera shop and they handled everything. And that's something I want to cover in another video, is the darkroom process. I personally haven't done it before, and there's some classes I can take locally to learn how to do it and then rent a darkroom. And that's one thing I regret about not being able to do on my very first roll of film. But enough rambling, and let's jump into some of these photos. So this photo right here is the very first photo I took. You can see that this guy has a skateboard balancing on his head. I just thought it was really interesting. I really needed him 2 steps back, but I was too slow at firing. That's one of the things I definitely took away from this process, was that you have to be really quick on your feet, especially when you're going out and trying to do some more of that street photography style. I'm still okay with this photo because I did just barely manage to squeeze him in the frame, and those parking signs kind of make it interesting. So some of these next photos really show that I was shooting during golden hour, and that was the goal that I was going for because I really wanted to play with shadows. One of the interesting things about shooting on film is I remember exactly what was going on right before and during the photo that I was taking. So this photo with these 3 girls walking towards the camera, there was actually a lady who was homeless who was like 10 feet behind me peeing on the sidewalk. Now I know that sounds like a really memorable story anyway, and it probably is, but since I was really focused on trying to take photos that would count, since I only had a handful of them, I can easily recall what was going on before and during that photo. Like this photo of us in the tunnel, we just got done picking up some food from one of the food trucks, and we were gonna sit and eat in our car, but there was this car waiting for our spot, so we had to leave. And I'd completely forgotten about that story until I saw it after this roll was developed. It's just really interesting how I can take my digital camera out and snap a million photos, but not everyone tells a story to me later on in post. Then these next photos were when my friends Jason and Avery were in town, and we decided to go hiking to some waterfalls. You can see them here, and you can see some of the waterfalls. You can really see how I missed focus here, and exposure was a little iffy. The highlights are blown out and the shadows are kind of underexposed. It's just a really contrasty vibe. Maybe if I had like Portra 400 or something, it'd be a little bit more of a pleasant image, but it also didn't help that I seem to have missed focus on pretty much all of these shots of waterfalls. And that's definitely one of the things I struggled the most, is since I shoot on a Sony a7S, I have an electronic viewfinder. So when I put that camera up to my eye, I'm pretty much seeing that final image. Whereas when I'm looking through the Pentax viewfinder, I'm only seeing the image reflecting onto the mirror and up through the eyepiece. There's nothing else helping me. So I can definitely see how shooting with an extremely shallow depth of field would be really challenging with one of these cameras. Another thing I also took for granted is quite a handful of these shots were taken at 210mm, and I don't have image stabilization on this camera. I do have it on my Sony, of course, so I think I moved a little bit during some of these shots, and it really did affect the sharpness of the image. Now, a lot of those might have sounded like cons to shooting film, but I actually learned a lot and enjoyed this process. The only part I wasn't a fan of was the fact that I couldn't go and develop the film myself. That was really frustrating, giving my roll to somebody and saying, hey, just give it to me when you're done. I really just wanted it like now. I'm so used to just coming home, getting in my pajamas, plugging my card into my computer, and just having the footage right there and now. It was really hard waiting a week to get that footage back. But hopefully that process speeds up once I take like a darkroom class and can rent the room and do it myself. And as for my next roll is concerned, I think I'm gonna get some Portra 400. I really love like that low contrast vibe and the beautiful colors and skin tones it produces. And I'm also gonna try and get my paws on like a 35 or 50mm lens, because I really do wanna focus a little bit more on that street photography. I might even go for like a contrasty black and white film again, just to get that like grungy, like documentary vibe. But the images I've seen of that Portra 400, oh man, I can definitely see why people start to fall in love with this, because each film roll has a different personality, the age of it, everything, the camera, there's just so much personality in all of this, and how unpredictable it can be at times. There's a lot of elements in these images that I completely didn't know, like that light coming through the lens and hitting it, like when this car's coming down the road, I didn't know that was gonna happen. I was just testing to see the flare of the lens, but I just got this really weird light leak. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at my first roll of film. Let me know down in the comments below if you remember your first roll of film, or if you haven't shot film, or any of those fun stories. And then also recommend any rolls of film that I should try out. I don't know a whole lot of rolls. Like I said, I just started doing this, so I'm really curious to try a bunch of different rolls and see the different looks they have. But thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.